Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Look, Wrestling 101, classes in session. Pay attention to the teachings, that's from Andrew and Derek. I mean, these guys making a killing with no competition. Dynamic duo better than the Hardy Boys and the Dudley Boys. Everybody make some noise, mess with them, you get destroyed. They cannot be beat, take a seat. Watch them do they thing on the MIC. Face defeat, they cannot be seen like JC. Oh my goodness, it's a killing spree.
Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Wrestling IQ 101. You know me, my name is Derek on behalf of Wrestling IQ 101. You can check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Check us out on YouTube, Apple Podcasts. Make sure you subscribe and listen to the episodes. Today is a very special day. We have Miss Stephanie Hardy from the Hardy Wrestling Podcast, my sister from another mister. What's good, Steph? What's good, Steph? How you
doing? I'm doing good. I'm just really happy to be here. I'm so pumped right now.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you on. You know, we've done a couple of things on Rap and Wrestle together, and we've done a couple of things with Bob Culture. We've done a couple of things with the Ropes Media with Ty Asbury.
Yeah.
But we never done anything, you know, just us two. So I was excited to get you on. I was like, yeah, we need to do this. But how's everything going today? You're doing good?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. You know, a little bit tired from work, but you know, that's life.
gotta grind, gotta hustle. You know, it's always amazing to me. How's a girl from Ghana end up in Alabama?
Okay, see, here's the thing. I'm not from Ghana. I'm literally born in the United States.
You're born, okay.
Yeah, I'm an African American, so I was born in the United States, but I've been to Ghana because I went to Ghana for study abroad when I was in college for undergrad.
Okay.
So yeah, I have the flag in the back because I bought everything when I was over there. I bought everything, and I just loved being there in an African nation. It meant a lot to me. So I purchased everything, including a flag, and it's hanging back there because I just love that country so very much. So it's funny, the first time you and I had an interview, you know, together collectively on Ty's show, you thought that I was from Ghana, and I guess I never told you. Like, I was born in Alabama. Like, I'm an American.
That's so hilarious. See, look, we learn new things all the time, right?
Yeah.
It's so crazy. I've always seen the Ghana flag. I was like, yo, Steph's from Ghana? I was like, yo, I got a lot of friends from Ghana, and I'm like, they're all like on like the East Coast, like New York, New Jersey. And I was like, how did you get from Ghana to Alabama? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
But hey, we learn something new every day, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, we both have that common interest of, you know, we love wrestling. We both have our own podcast as well. For you, going all the way back to, you know, little Stephanie, what was it that, you know, drew you to wrestling and made you become a fan of it?
Well, what happened was I was around 4 years old, and my dad was sitting on the floor at my grandma's house, and sort of tape wrestling because he would have to work, you know, on certain Mondays. So he would come home or come to my grandma's house sometimes, and he would sit on the floor and watch WCW and WWF at the time. And so I kind of just walked in and ambled in the room one day, and he just so happened to be watching Goldberg versus Hulk Hogan at the Georgia Dome.
Oh,
And
man.
yeah, and I asked him, I was like, Dad, who's the guy with the hair? And he said, that's Hulk Hogan. And I said, who's the bald guy? And he said, that's Goldberg. And I was like, okay. And I kind of just sat there and just watched it the whole time. And I don't know exactly, you know, what clicked off in my childlike head to sort of make me just sit there and watch it with them, but I just did. And I never really stopped. So it's just been kind of the norm ever since I was a child, and even since I was a baby, because my mom said that my dad would watch it, you know, while holding me. So it's just kind of been the thing, you know.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's pretty dope. Yeah, and that's a one hell of a match to be your first match that you walk in on. Is like to remember that match. That match was just the feeling of it and the atmosphere out in Atlanta. It was just a crazy match to, be your first experience as a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
Um, so for you, when you decided, for me, I know when I wanted to go into podcasting, it literally started as I kind of like worked my way down of things that I wanted to do in wrestling. And of course, I feel like first we all watching and we're like, oh man, I would love to be a wrestler. I want to be the headliner of WrestleMania and fight The Rock at WrestleMania. All these things you make up in your head. And then I kind of like just worked my way down, and I settled on being a podcaster because I feel like, well, everybody tells me I talk a lot, so that's one thing. But I
Mm-hmm.
felt like I would be pretty good at it. Just giving my opinion and interviewing people that I thought were dope to it. So for you, like, kind of like, what was it for you that made you say, hey, I'm gonna start a podcast?
Okay, so for me, it was a little bit different for me because I never really thought of at the time, I never really thought I would do anything in wrestling. Like I would think about it like, oh, that would be cool, but then I would kind of just put it off to the back of my mind because I had like 10,000 other plans for my life that didn't involve it. Um,
Uh,
but see, I was a part of a Facebook group that wanted to start, they considered starting a podcast, and
mhm.
I was really pumped about it because I was just like, oh my god, like we could get more, of an audience to our group if we started a podcast about wrestling. It was cool. I thought that was a really great idea, but somehow or another it never materialized, and due to some differences, I wound up leaving the group, which left me kind of feeling like I didn't have a place to put all of my thoughts about wrestling outside of talking to my dad about it or my boyfriend about it or something like that.
Mhm.
So I think it was around the time, like around this time last year, as a matter of fact, I was I lost my job, and creatively, there was just a lot of stuff that I was, thinking about. And so in my head, I was like, maybe I should start the podcast. Because I had the app and everything that they had told us about to start it on my phone or whatever. But I was just like, maybe I should. And then after I watched the Royal Rumble a couple weeks later, I had a lot to say about it because I had so many feelings, about what was going on. So I was just like, well, let me just, try and just see how it goes. And I put the first episode out, I think it was February the 8th. And it just went from there, and I just decided to just stay consistent with it, and it's grown into a thing now, and it's surprising and beautiful at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, no, that it's always great on that journey that when you start in and you actually see things pay off for you and people take notice to you and give you credit and they respect what you're doing. That's always a great thing as well. Um, I would say, how do you think from when you started to right now, how do you think you've evolved as a podcast host?
Oh my god. I feel like the first episode, and a lot of people, I think my sister actually told me, like, from the first episode, I was really nervous because I
Hmm.
felt like, who was I to start a podcast? Because when you think about podcasters, you think about people who have lived, a long time, or people who have done something for a long period of time, who actually have the basis to talk about that particular thing that they've done forever, right?
Hmm.
And in my mind, I was like, I'm just this random girl from Alabama, who wants to talk about wrestling. Who's really going to listen to me? And I was just really nervous, but I just decided to go ahead and do it anyway. To like, now I've sort of evolved from just talking about it to actually, making space for different subjects to talk about with news, like I do on my show, News and Gossip Ish, with the stuff that I see and how that's actually valid now. And then with different segments and stories that I like to tell from my fan experiences, and then
Yeah.
talking about, the shows and analyzing the matches and talking about the stories and stuff like that, and how that's been glued together to actually fit a format, and it's actually a format that people actually like, and I'm just like, really? Okay. um and then now I feel like to evolve to a place where I can actually have the courage to ask people to be on my show, because
Yeah.
at first I was like, who's gonna want to be on my show? Like, this is nobody here again. No one knows who I am. Like, why? Like, I thought I was gonna get a lot of no's, but surprisingly, I got more yeses than anything else. So, the more people started, saying yes, and like I started feeling more confident in my abilities to actually ask people and actually tell people and what I'm doing on my show and actually believe in it, which makes them believe in it, so they'll want to be on it. And I feel like that's how I've evolved. Like, I have more courage and more confidence in what I'm doing, and my format of my show, and actually asking people to be on it. Like, I have a lot more confidence now.
Yeah, no, definitely, and it's always amazing, and I love that I kind of saw like the progress of where you were, to where you are. We've been friends for a good amount of time now, and I'm happy to see how far you've come. And it's like I listen to your episodes, and I think they're very well put together. I can tell when you're talking, you talk with confidence, and you can see that there's no shyness or anything like that. And I love the vibe of it. Like you said, it's a chill vibe for sure, and it's just great. And me, I'm trying to work on doing kind of like what you do as well. And you're like kind of like a role model for me, as much as you might not think it, but it's like I've done this, and it's like always from the beginning. I probably only did probably a couple shows where we just talk about like just straight up wrestling and rumors and news and stuff like that. But we've always been interviewing people. That's always what I've always been into, telling other people's stories. So I'm trying to branch into that where I'm giving my thoughts as well and stuff. And that's something you do a very, very great job at with your shows as well.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. I'm probably gonna cry later.
Oh boy, cut it out. Cut it out. You gotta cut it out. But so I always think it's interesting for people in other areas, because here on the East Coast, I don't know if you know, but it's like we're spoiled when it comes to wrestling, because in Jersey alone, there's probably like 100 indie companies. In New York, there's like 100 indie companies. We got Pennsylvania, that's right to the south of us.
Mhm.
That there's 100. All these places are an hour away from us. How is it like in Alabama when it comes to wrestling, like independent wrestling, or even getting shows out there like WWE passing through there? How's it like?
Oh man. See, I'm gonna try and say this without sounding a little bit bitter.
Uh-huh.
It's like up north, and I notice it, even when it comes to WWE, when everything was touring and everything was normal. In
Uh-huh.
New York and New Jersey, y'all get a lot of events.
We get a lot.
Y'all
We get a
get
lot.
Raws, y'all get SmackDowns, y'all get takeovers, y'all get
Yeah.
WrestleManias at times.
They gave us
And
3 years. They gave us 3 years of SummerSlam in a row in Brooklyn.
right, like it's amazing. I'm just like, y'all make me want to travel. Like, it's amazing, right?
Mhm.
But down here in Birmingham, and Fairfield, where I'm sort of based, is Central Alabama.
Uh-huh.
We get maybe one SmackDown or one live show like a year.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we try to make the most of it, and we still try to have fun with it and all that. But sometimes, that's if we get a live show one time and that's it. Or we'll get a SmackDown and that's it. Like, SmackDown is the show that comes to Birmingham the absolute most. And I think that's why I love it the most, because that's just one of my favorite wrestling shows. Because they come down here the most. And it's just, in terms of the indie scene, there was an indie promotion that was here a few years ago, but I think they kind of left and went to another city, like in Huntsville. Alabama is a pretty big state, so a lot of their independent wrestling is sort of spread out in different cities and different pockets. And we don't really have a lot of independent wrestling close to me. But they're always like all over in different other cities, like Clanton and Huntsville, and in other cities that you really wouldn't necessarily think of. But it's pretty vibrant, because I actually had a wrestler from my city, Big Smooth. I
Uh-huh.
actually had him on my show, and he's like the champion of this indie promotion called Victory Championship Wrestling. And I forgot which city in particular they're based in. But it's kind of like he actually had to go and seek them out because here in Birmingham is really not that much in terms of wrestling outside of high schools where they have it as an actual sport. So that's kind of how wrestling is a little bit different down here than it is, up there where y'all have everything. and I
Yeah,
say and I say
we do
that with
have.
love. I say that with love. Y'all have everything.
We have everything, yo. Hey, when you and your boyfriend want to take a trip, y'all know where to come, man. If there's a whole bunch of wrestling out here when everything gets back to normal, so you know what it is.
Oh yes.
That's crazy. But yeah, Alabama is pretty big. I know. I'll tell you a funny story. My grandfather, he lives out there as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my grandfather, every time he comes to visit for the holidays, he travels up to Jersey. He drives here to
Oh
Jersey.
wow.
He drives here to Jersey. First of all, he drives by himself. Nobody knows when he's coming. He just pops up. He'll come to your house at 2 a.m, knocking on the door, like, "Hey, I'm here." You're
Oh my
like, "Wait, what?"
god.
So, we're telling him, because he's getting older, like, we're like, Grandpa, like, you got to start taking planes out here. You can't just be driving up here by yourself. And
Right.
he told us from where he's at, the airport is like 2 hours away from him.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, yeah, I got to take like a propeller plane to somewhere. I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, this is crazy. So I was thinking like maybe that's why WWE is like, hey man, we got to do all this stuff because it's so big in the Alabama area to, come out there because everything's so spread out.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, that's crazy. But my grandfather, I'm like, dude, he gotta start taking them planes. So for you, if you come here, you gotta take a 2 hour ride to the airport.
Oh, definitely. I'm gonna fly.
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna fly like from our airport to up there because I mean I love flying. So especially flying to like a far distant place, like I will fly to New York. Like I don't care.
New York is fun, man. Hopefully,
Yeah.
you get an experience like a WrestleMania or something. That would be pretty dope. In this area, that's probably one of the best times that we've had. So that would be cool for you to experience.
Yeah, I've actually
Let's see. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, like I actually been to a WrestleMania because they had one in Atlanta in 2011. So I went to that
Yeah,
one because from where I live, Atlanta is just 2.5 hours. So me and my dad and my sister went to that one. So I've had that WrestleMania experience. It's beautiful when you're surrounded by that much humanity all there for that one wrestling thing. Like it's amazing. So I do want
yeah,
to go back to
it's
another
crazy.
one. Like I'm tired of them not coming back to Atlanta. Like I need them to go like somewhere
Yeah,
closer. But if not, then I'll have to go somewhere far because I'm sick of waiting. I'm tired of
no,
waiting. I
yeah,
gotta
it's
go.
it's dope, and just like you said, just being around all that humanity. Like I just got goosebumps just thinking about it because nothing compares to that, and it's just thousands of people, and we're all there for because we all love something. I'll tell you, I'm not sure how Atlanta does it, but I'll tell you, the way we do it here is since we have all these indie shows, so WrestleMania is happening on the Sunday. There's access wherever they set it up Saturday, Sunday. So
Yes.
we get the wrestling convention as well because they'll set up a big WrestleCon out here as well.
Oh
So
my
you could get
gosh.
WrestleCon starting from like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and you could go in. You could see all these stars. You could get pictures. You could get autographs instead of doing. Access is kind of expensive because you're seeing all those big stars that are on TV, but you get to see a lot of the old timer guys. Let's say like Sergeant Slaughter or Lex Luger, or a whole list of people, old guys that were in WWE. But it's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. And then all the indie shows, there's like indie shows running the whole week, which are like it's crazy. So it's like a whole different experience. So I'm hoping one day they come back around because that experience, that the whole total, it's like it's off the chain. It's pretty nuts.
Yeah, I whenever they show commercials for it, like I really wish I could do all of that stuff because it looks so cool. Like I would be so tired that whole week. I'd be at almost everything.
It's definitely it's very tiresome, very tiresome weekend for sure. Um, okay, so we say like podcasting. How do you feel? Because we represent, as much as we may not want to, or you know, some people embrace it, but you know, we're the few of Black podcasters that are out there. So, you know, we represent for, you know, African Americans, we represent for the Black culture as well. How do you feel, you know, representing, you know, especially, you know, it's different for you, I feel, because it's like you get that double of where it's like you're a Black woman as well. So, you know, they're already, you know, you get judgment for being a Black male, but then now you're getting judgment for, you know, being a Black woman and, you know, Black as well. But how do you feel just representing the culture and, you know, being a part of it?
Well, it's something that I am very proud of. Like, I was always raised, to feel, pride in my heritage. So, it's always Black excellence all day. And anytime I can highlight it in wrestling or highlight it in my own life, like, I love to use my platform to discuss, the problems that we face as African Americans, and also as being a female as well, because it's like you said, it's a double-edged sword sometimes. um and as much as I can, like, I try to use my platform to discuss the things that would affect African American female fans, and also African American male fans as well. I mean, you can't, you know I feel like that would be almost irresponsible
Yeah.
to have your platform and not discuss the issues, that do face you, and the issues that happen in wrestling in terms of Blackness as well, because even though they've come a long way, even in the past year, with
Yeah.
how Africans and African Americans are represented in wrestling, there's still some progress to clearly make. And that's just not in wrestling, that's just collectively as a whole.
Yeah.
um Without
Yeah.
fully getting into it, but collectively as a whole, like, there's a lot of progress that just needs to happen. And so being a representative of the Black wrestling podcast community, it's something that I hold near and dear to my heart, and I just hope that I can continue to be a positive example. And I feel honored to share spaces with other African American podcasters like you and Ty, and also the Jobber Tears podcast, because that was the first big Black wrestling podcast I ever heard of. Before I even got into podcasting. Like, they're my heroes. I love them. And
Yeah.
and just sharing the spaces with people like those wrestling girls, and those, and the dead
Mhm.
ass girls, like all of them, and how helpful they've been, and O-Face wrestling, with him being an ally. Like, that just means the world to me, to even share spaces with these people and with these women, who want to who want to share their opinions in a space that doesn't necessarily like to welcome them in that space, and
Mhm.
they try to sort of, X them out because, oh, you're a girl, you don't know anything, because they feel like, oh, it's a male dominated sport. If you're a woman and you like it, it's like you're trying to have an ulterior motive. And that's not the
Yeah.
case at all. You can still be an organic fan and still be a female without, and still be a woman without, having ulterior motives behind it, or trying to get with somebody and all that. Like, we just want to watch wrestling because we think it's dope, because we think it's cool, because we like to watch people get punched. Like, it's like, that's just how it should be. Like, for the same reasons you would like it as a male, we'll still like it as female. So I like to
Yeah.
represent
No,
that
definitely.
from an organic place. And I'm really glad to share spaces with other people who want to, open that up for other Black females and say, hey, it's okay if you like this. It makes you, and it makes you interesting. It makes you quirky. It makes you beautiful. Like, come on. Like, it's okay. There's a whole community for you here. So that's what I want to do, is make a safe space for Black women who
Y-
love it.
y- Yeah. No, no, no. I think that's pretty, I think that's amazing too. And, you know, the way I look at it as, you know, I feel like we're kind of like role models to those younger kids that, you know, they're coming up and they're thinking like of things that they want to do. And, you know, we're showing them like, hey, you know, you could do this. Like, I was just talking to a friend about this the other day, and I'm like, it's crazy. Like, I have a friend who makes music, and, you know, he's starting to uh, be noticed and become a big artist. Like, he's working his way up. So I'm like, you know, it's amazing that our kids are seeing that, you know, you're doing stuff like this. I'm doing stuff like it's normal to them. You know what I mean? To see
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, my dad's going to record. He's going to talk to some wrestler. or something like that's normal for my son to say to people. So and I love I love that feeling for him to see like, hey, this is not something that's impossible. And I kind of love like how you said you brought up Jobber Tears, those wrestling girls, yourself, Ty. Like we're all representing the Black culture and podcasting, and we're also like different people all together. So it's like different representations of Black culture. It's not just under one umbrella. Like, oh, this is how all Black podcasters are. This is how all Black people are. It's like, no, we're all different, just like everybody else is all different.
Right.
We got our own things. Dirty Hills too. I shout out to them because I love those guys too.
Yeah.
They're pretty cool. So, but that's the thing I like about it too. Is like we're all different, and there's been a lot of love between all of us for sure. And that's another thing that I like as well. It's all about the support. The reason we got into it because we love wrestling. So wrestling today, like what would you say? If someone asked you, what are your thoughts on wrestling today? How do you feel about wrestling today? What would your answer to that be?
Well, I would answer that by saying that I feel like now wrestling is beautifully adaptable and resilient, because literally in the last year there was so much that popped off with the coronavirus and everything that just changed, right? And it's just to be able to see how wrestling has just been able to adapt and still give us, some of the best content and best quality, across the board. It's just been wonderful. Like, I would say it's in a good place because um it just is. It's just really in a good place now, because there's areas of it that of course, can tie in and bring in casual fans, but then there's always the part that caters to the diehard fans like us. And
Yeah,
I just feel like wrestling is in a really good place, even though it has its moments where they do sort of, backtrack a little bit and sort of stops its own momentum or stops its own progress at times, because they think, oh, this is going to do better than this one thing. It's still, it still leaves you wanting to see how it's going to turn out. And I feel like anytime it goes back and forth, but it still leaves enough for you to still be interested and to see where it's going to go, it's going to always be
yeah,
in a good place. So that's where I feel like wrestling currently is. And plus, it's a new year. So, with it being a new year, they're going to try to do so many different things to grasp our attention. So, I'm really excited with it being almost Royal Rumble time. And then with all the different promotions as well that I may not have paid that much attention to before, but I'm paying
yeah,
more attention to it now because there's a desire for me as a podcaster to sort of learn more about wrestling collectively as a whole instead of just this one promotion that I grew up loving so much, which was WWE. I'm a WWE girl,
yeah,
but now I have this desire to sort of branch out a little bit and sort of learn more about, what more of wrestling is out there and seeing how other people feel about these other promotions as well. And it's very entertaining to sort of see and look at and find other things that you love as well within this sport that you've been watching for so long. So yeah, I'm excited about where it's gonna go. Like, I'm pumped.
yeah. I love it too, man. And I think there's a lot of good things. And just like you said, with the other promotions that are out there, they're doing a lot of great things as well. So, it that's the one good thing I like about wrestling. It's like you always have alternatives. So it's like, we hear people complain about WWE the most just because they're the biggest company.
Right.
So it's like there's a whole bunch of other alternatives out there. Like you can watch a lot of things. There's MLW, Impact, Ring of Honor, Lucha Underground, New Japan. There's so many things out there, and I think that's just the beauty of it. And I was kind of like in that phase, like probably like 5-6 years ago, and I kind of started the same thing, and I really started going heavy with New Japan, and like
Mm-hmm.
I fell in love with it. I'm like, yo, these guys are like just so sick. So it's always something with wrestling where you could just keep evolving, keep learning more, and keep seeing new stuff. It's never, it's never old. It's never gonna get old for us.
Right.
Um, for you, if there was things that you could change in wrestling, what would those things be?
Ooh. um I think one thing that I would change right now is, and I think this is a popular statement that a lot of people are coming up with since the return of Sting and the return of Goldberg.
Hmm.
More recently, I feel like I would change the dependency upon older stars.
Gotcha.
Um, I would change that because I feel like it sort of stunts the growth of younger stars who are consistently there all the time.
Yeah.
And I feel like if an older star is going to be there, I feel like they should, be there sort of to sort of help elevate. And that's not to say that they're not there to help elevate. I wouldn't say that at all, because of
Yeah.
course I'm not them and I'm not in their head, so I don't know that. But I feel like I would have them in a place where they can elevate and not take so much shine away from the people who are always consistently there. Um I feel like I would also change and give more, like, I guess heavily, like, more time for women's tag teams to develop, because
Yeah.
I feel like in especially in WWE, it's like they sort of slap two solo stars sort of together. And sometimes that chemistry does work, but they have a tendency to slap two solo stars together and then make them go after the titles, sort of haphazardly out of nowhere, as opposed to building up, the rapport of a team that, say, like the Riot Squad, that's sort of been together for like a long period of time, but they make them do other things and not go necessarily for the tag titles. And I feel like they deserve those tag titles deserve more time for growth. And I feel like those are two things that I think that I would drastically change a little bit in wrestling, because I can't really think of anything else. So those are probably like two things I can think of offhand.
Yeah. No, no, no. I feel you on that. Those good answers. I give you that. Um, how are you feeling about the representation of black athletes in the sport today?
I love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. Like, last year was really amazing. Like, to have to end it with Big E winning the IC title and
Hmm.
all the big things that he might have coming up. Like, I am predicting that he'll probably win the Royal Rumble. And if not him, then maybe Keith Lee. Like,
Yeah.
I want both of them to either win in the men's Royal Rumble, because I just need that to happen. And then with Bianca Belair and all of the representation that she gives, and her attitude and stuff. And then with Sasha Banks having the glorious year that she has, she's the GOAT to me. Like, I will fight anybody on this. Like, she's the greatest female wrestler ever. And I just love her so much. And the year that she had, between her mainstream appeal being on Star Wars and The Mandalorian, and her just, evolving with each and every match, and just adapting to the styles of the different wrestlers that she faced with Asuka and Bailey and all of that, and even on NXT. It's just with Io Shirai, like, she's money no matter where you put her. She's just a great wrestler. and
Yeah.
and even on Impact with Chris Bay, and then with Rich Swann being, Impact World Champion. I actually remember meeting him when he was a cruiserweight, on 205
Hmm.
Live. And
Hmm.
he was so nice and he was just so humble and everything. So to see him be a world champion now is just like amazing. And with his life story and everything that he's gone through, with him, rising above all of his, stuff, to become
Hmm.
this world champion now, and possibly in a feud with Kenny Omega, who's one of the best. Like, that means the world to me. And, just, I'm trying to think who else, like, God, like, and then Naomi, in the moment she had at last year's Royal Rumble, with her coming out with her natural hair and her crossing over towards black women on Essence magazine. Like, that was amazing for me, because I read Essence magazine, and sort of seeing all these other black women who may not have ever watched wrestling in years, or
Yeah.
never watched it at all, get interested in it because she was on it and because of her hair and all this other stuff.
Hmm.
Like, that just meant the world to me. And then, like, with people like Aja Smith, being, the first black female referee in
Yeah.
WWE, and then her fiance Leon Ruff winning the North American title after
Hmm.
jobbing for the first half, of the year. Like,
Yeah.
that was just amazing to see. And then with Keith Lee winning the NXT title and the North American title, and then getting, pushed to the main roster now. Like, it's an amazing time to be, a black athlete. And then also, I'll mention Sonny Kiss, who's, a representative of of Black people who aren't necessarily just, heterosexual, who are just, who represent LGBTQIA plus people. Like
Yeah.
that's a big thing. That's a big deal. I even had Duncan Solaire on, and they're non-binary, and they wrestle out, in South Korea. Like
Hmm.
that stuff like that means the world to me. And to be able to even talk to some of them and even had some of them on my show, like that was great. Even Promise Braxton in Reality of Wrestling, that Booker T's place.
Hmm.
She became Diamond's, champion just a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And that meant the world to me because she was my first female guest.
Hmm.
So like stuff like that just means the world to me. I just feel like Black wrestlers are just turning up everywhere, and it's only gonna get better. If the ceiling is just taken off, you know,
Yeah.
if the ceiling is just taken off for them, they can fly and then succeed however they want to. And of course, the Hurt Business, they're always good too. My chocolate
Yep.
horse, they're amazing.
Oh man, yeah, no, those guys are great, and I feel the same when it comes to Black athletes in the sport today as well. I think they've been killing it this year, and I think that kind of shows you like when you kind of let the lid off, and it's like you just let these guys go out there and do their thing. Like you can see like, hey, these guys can kill it. They can represent your company. They can
Hmm.
carry the company. They could do a lot of great things. And it's like we're black people. We're natural entertainers by just genetics. It's in all of our genes just to be natural entertainers.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And then when you talk about athleticism and evolving and things like when it comes to sports, that's what we do. We are athletic. We do amazing things, and we evolve sports. That's what we do. It's so amazing. So
Yeah, and then for all of that to happen post Kofi too, like that
yeah,
means the world to for me as well, because it's like you have the New Day and you got Kofi who won the title, 2 years ago, and then all of this to collectively happen after that, it's like it's almost like he sort of, even though other people did it so he could do it, it's
uh,
almost like he sort of ran so everybody else can run just as fast, if not faster. So it's beautiful.
yeah, no, definitely, definitely, and I'm glad. I'm glad that it's at the point where it's at for sure. So let's talk about I know you've done an episode with Miranda Morales, and
Hmm.
she's had you on her show, vice versa as well. Definitely, if you haven't watched those episodes, make sure you check out those episodes. And I know now you're doing some work with Chairshot Media, right?
Yeah. Oh my God.
So
Like,
tell me about that. How did that come about? And what are you going to be
oh,
doing?
it was so sweet. Like, I love Miranda so much. Like, she's been very
Hmm.
supportive of me in this process. Like, she found me, and I was just like, okay, hi. And and it's just we've just become like really dope friends, from it. And I'm just really pumped that we're working together. She just sort after our interview, I think after I put mine out and then after she put hers out, her and Greg DeMarco, who's like her best friend, who helps
Yeah.
her, run the Chair Shot Media website, sort of asked me if I wanted, my podcast to be on it. And I was just like, sure. Like
Yeah.
I'll love to do that, because they have lots of great content on their website too, like Lucha Central
Hmm.
and then Miranda's show and so many other great podcasts as well. So I was just like, you know what, this can't hurt.
Yeah.
It can't, I feel like it can't ever hurt to be put on, someone's website so they can listen to you like all the time. Now technologically I had to learn a lot, from how having to download the link and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like podcasting is definitely opening me up to get more tech involved, because
Hmm.
otherwise I just get somebody else to do it. So but it's been wonderful, to be on a network like that will actually, run it and talk about, what I do on my show and everything. So I'm at the sky's the limit, and I'm just really honored that they would even consider me or ask me. It was just a cool thing that just happened.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. Let me ask you about that too. How is your how's like your learning process with everything? So for me, it was like when I first started, I knew how to record audio, and that was literally it. I literally that was it. I knew how to record audio. That was it. So I literally like I've learned through like these years of I'm on like 6 years of doing this, and I've like learned like editing audio. I've learned freaking making graphics. Now I'm exploring with video now since COVID started. I started doing videos. So how has that learning process for you been, and how are you like adjusting to learning all these things that you got to do with a podcast, especially when you're doing it by yourself, like you and I are doing?
Well, like you, like when you first started, I'm just doing audio because I just feel, even though right now I'm talking to you on video, it's
Uh,
just, I don't know. I think the reason why I haven't done video just yet is because of the fact that I don't know the how my show and how it's formatted would even fit on video.
got you.
And I feel like, and considering mine has like three moving parts to it, it's just
Uh,
like I don't necessarily know how exactly that will work in terms of video. Like, how would I do news and gossipish and then make the transition to story time make sense? Or how I would do
got
story time and then do, the recaps and make it make sense, or
you.
do
Yeah,
the predictions and make it make sense. Like, I don't know how to make like a full scale video where all of those transitions would make sense, because I feel like if
mhm.
for something like that to happen, it would be almost like the Ellen show, or it would be almost like Oprah. Like like
Yeah,
I would go
yeah,
from one section of a show to another section of a show to another section of a show. And I don't know how that will work.
yeah,
So it's easier for me to just do audio because I'm just talking, and then I can separate it and then edit the audio and put music behind it and then cut some stuff out. Like that's something
yeah,
I learned how to do. Even though I'm only doing it on my phone, and it's easier that way for right now because it's just
yeah,
me. It's like the Anchor app just has a tendency to sort of teach you how to do things, and sort of, and they kind of make it like podcasting for dummies. Like you've never done this before. So it's like they sort of make it so they show you how to edit things, start here, end here, cut this out here, you know. And it's really great, how they, format it so any person who wants to start a thing, they can start it, and then it's just from there you can just jump from there. So hopefully one day I'll be in a studio, or or build a studio or something like that. I don't know what the future holds for that, but for right now it's very comfortable sort of doing it, with just
yeah,
audio. But one day I do want to do, video stuff, because I enjoy doing interviews, like this. But
yeah,
I just don't know how the format, I feel like the entire format of my show would have to change for me to do
yeah.
it on video.
Oh,
And I'm
trust me,
just not sure how that will work.
it's tough to do it, especially when you're involved in video as well. I did when I did my New Year's episode, it was like that because I kind of I did like my favorite picks of in wrestling, and my favorite picks of like in music as well, for
Hmm.
like the year of 2020. And then like I tried to I threw like some news in the middle of it to kind of like just let it breathe. And then I was like, oh man, then I had to make like a small like 10-second graphic with like some news media sound to transition from that to that, and then put the intro from the beginning right after that to go back into it took me forever to do it. So I'm like, yo, these dudes, whoever these guys that are doing podcasts that have these production behind them, they should be thanking those guys, man, because it's not easy at all to be doing all this stuff.
Yeah, people like that probably have like a team.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
actually have, and the team actually has time to work on that. See, we're just ordinary people. Like we just don't have time
yeah,
for stuff like that. So it's
yeah.
just, it's
But
crazy,
hey,
but
man, we're still out here grinding though. We're still getting it done. That's what matters at the end of the day.
right.
Um, for you, so outside of wrestling, outside of podcasting, any hobbies? What are like your favorite things to do outside of wrestling?
Well, outside of wrestling, I love to watch TV shows. Right now, I'm rewatching Girlfriends. Um,
Oh man.
like, because I didn't watch Girlfriends when it first came on, because of course when it first came on in 2000, I was a child and I was too young to process any of the stuff that they were talking about then.
Yeah.
So, now I'm watching it and rewatching it because I haven't really found anything that I've really want to sink my teeth into. Like, I'm hesitant to watch new shows. Like, I don't know why, but I just am.
Yeah.
So I'm rewatching Girlfriends and enjoying that. And I'm also in the process of looking into going to graduate school, like,
Nice.
for communications, because I feel like excuse me, I feel like last year, with finding my voice and finding my intellectual voice, in podcasting and also in other areas, it sort of opened up a door for me to sort of start this new career, because that's literally what it feels like.
Yeah.
It's like you get off from work, to do another
More work.
thing that takes a lot of work, but it
Uh-huh.
doesn't feel like work at all because I love it so much, and I've discovered that about myself now. So it's just, in terms of self discovery, I'm thinking about, just going for my master's in communications, um and journalism, to see, where that would go, and being open towards possibly having a career, in wrestling in that aspect, because God knows I can't fight. So if I can't fight, then I'm gonna talk about the fights. That's what I'm gonna do.
Okay.
So if I talk about the fights, then that would be really fun. So I feel like I'm doing that now. And then also I'm sort of ambling around the idea of singing as well, because I got
Nice.
my degree, in music. So I have been singing, since I was, a child. And that's something that I sort of thought I wanted to do with my life, but life
Mhm.
has a way of sort of showing you different. So it's just, I sort of amble around the idea of making like a mixtape of cover songs, because I don't
Yeah.
necessarily write my own songs just yet.
Yeah.
So it's just, I love to sing. Like, I sing at my church, all the time. Of course, our church is closed now. So
Mhm.
we just do virtual stuff. But I was in choir at my church, and I sang soprano, and I that was like a thing that I really love to do. And I
Nice.
love to dance.
Oh man.
Like, I love to dance like a crazy person. So that's kind of like a lot of the stuff that I like to do. And sometimes I love to read, different things like articles and random facts about things. And I love watching YouTube videos too. So yeah, like
Hey.
documentary style YouTube videos, because I'm a nerd.
Nah, hey, I feel you on it. I feel you. I like that too, man. What about music? What type of music you like?
Well, I love gospel.
Uh,
I love R&B, definitely. Like,
yeah.
I love R&B. And I love rock. Definitely classic rock is something that I found I actually like, especially, and I love 80s music too.
Nice.
Um and I love 70s music as well. Like, I love, like, just, I feel like all of my favorite decades are like 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and now. So those are pretty much all of my favorite genres of music. So, and I love, yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah. And then I love a little bit of pop too. So yeah.
A little bit of pop. Hey, yeah. I ain't mad at you on that. You know something I would like to see, kind of like we see these blends of what we love with wrestling and entertainment media is kind of picking up on it. So something I would like to see with the rise of black athletes in wrestling. I
Hmm.
would love to see like BET or places like that cover more of wrestling and these stars that are represented into that. How would you feel about something like that?
Oh my God. So I think I actually was talking to my boyfriend about something like this, because there was this one time where Sasha Banks actually went to a BET Awards. And I watch the
Yeah.
BET Awards every year.
Yep.
She actually went to a BET Awards, and I was so excited to see her, because I was just like, "Oh my God, it's her!" And a part of me was wondering, like, I wonder if anybody knows who she is, But in my mind, I was just like, "That's her, and she's there, she's representing, and I think that's cool."
Hmm.
But in the BET vein, it's like they have their sports person, like sportswoman of the year award, and then they have their sportsman of the year award, right?
Yeah.
And they nominate all these people like LeBron James and, Venus Williams, Serena Williams, all of these amazing people, in different sports and stuff. But
Hmm.
they never nominate wrestling people. And
Yeah.
it's just kind of like, I wonder, how amazing it would be if someone like the Street Profits or like Bianca Belair was included and stuff like that, because the athletic feats that they pull off are
Hmm.
just absolutely insane. And it's just like, I believe they deserve so much credit that I feel like they're just not getting in terms of Black culture. Like, I feel like a part of the reason why Naomi, had her moment, with the Royal Rumble was because Black women who had never really paid that much attention to wrestling before, saw it and just grasped onto it,
Yep.
and I feel like if BET, and I feel like media in general have this idea that wrestling just isn't a legitimate sport. I feel like that's where it starts. That's the
Hmm.
root of it. It's like everybody else in media sort of don't look at it as a legitimate sport. So they sort of, if it's popping for like maybe a few minutes, in mainstream media, then they'll talk about it. Or if
Yeah.
something negative happens, then they'll talk about it. But then
Yeah.
after that, they kind of just don't talk about it anymore and they just leave it alone. Now, ESPN has gotten way better about it, but it's just like, you'll still have your people who work for companies like that, and then they'll still call wrestling fake. And it's just
Yep.
sort of like, there has to be an open mind from their perspective in order to sort of invite them in and really realize that people that has all the attitude of someone like in rap, or has all the charisma like the Street Profits, or to be welcoming to somebody who's sort of like an other, in terms of blackness, like Xavier Woods, or like people in the New Day who represent a different form of blackness into the BET space, then that would be cool. So I feel like if they connected, that would be, wonderful. That would do wonders, for Black culture, because there are levels to Black culture that's mentioned in wrestling all the time, but they just don't know about it because it's not as mainstream as it used to be. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly. No, I think that would be great. I know on ESPN, I don't know if they still have it, but I know they had I want to say like a 30-minute show that like Jonathan Coachman was the host of, where
Mm-hmm.
I know he used to bring on wrestlers and he used to talk about wrestling. And I'm like, yo, they got all these guys, like, and especially when it comes to like BT and Black culture, like Hot 97, Rosenberg works for Hot 97. He's one of the biggest wrestling fans in the world. They got, all these hip hop artists who put rap lyrics into their songs, and I mean wrestling lyrics into their songs. And it's like, those videos are played on BT, they're played on MTV, stuff like that. I would love like BT if they had like a 30-minute show every week, and they were just talking about wrestling, or even if they made it a sports show and made sure that Black athletes from wrestling were included in it. I think that would just be amazing to do. And there's a lot of great stars that I think a lot of Black people in general could relate to, like Street Profits, Bianca Belair. Like, those are relatable people that you because they're like our cousins, like our uncles, like
Yes.
they relate to people we know. And I think that would be a huge boost for Black culture and even WWE in general, or wrestling in general, because people will start to watch all these things, and it's like that would be a huge boost to ratings and all this stuff. And it's like, I don't know, maybe WWE, they're not just interested in it, or maybe the other partners aren't interested in it, but I would definitely love to see something like that. And I know you even had the idea of with my show is called Rap and Wrestle, my other show,
Yes.
and combining the worlds of hip hop and wrestling. I think that's amazing. We just saw Snoop Dogg. It wasn't the greatest splash in the world, but we saw him. We saw him on
Yes.
AEW. So I think it'll be a good idea that WWE should capitalize on, and wrestling in general should capitalize on.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's just with the whole rap and wrestle thing, I sort of I kind of saw where you were going with it. It's just like the it came up yesterday while I was just sort of just sitting around, and I was just like, you know what? It would be cool if they do just like they did in the 80s, where it was rock and roll and wrestling,
Uh-huh.
where you had Cyndi Lauper, just coming in and doing the whole rock and wrestling thing.
Yeah.
So if they did that and flipped it on its head and made it, towards rap, which is like the most popular genre, rap and hip hop being the most popular genre, out right now,
Yeah.
it would just make sense for them to do rap and wrestling, considering there are so many wrestlers who talk so much about, how much they love wrestling, like Post Malone, and how he had on, a Austin vest, when everything was normal and he did a performance. And you
Mm-hmm.
have Bad Bunny, who just did his video with Booker T in it,
Mm-hmm.
and with his song that was called Booker T. And he's mentioned
Yes.
Eddie Guerrero in one of his lyrics on Cardi B's song I Like It. And then you have the moment where Cardi B sort of went viral because she was interacting with wrestling fans this past Monday because Tori Wilson mentioned her name. I
Yep.
mean, you have stuff like that happening, all the time. It's sporadic, but when it happens and it's really cool. And then you have
Mm-hmm.
Snoop Dogg, being on AEW and WWE because, Sasha Banks is, his cousin. You have stuff like that. And you sort of wonder, why isn't a rap and wrestle thing happening? Because it would just be insane. And then you have Wale, who's been on wrestling on WWE programming more than once,
Yep.
and how that would work. And he just did, Biggie's new song,
Yep.
like that could just work. And then you have Josiah, who's a digital talent in NXT, and how his wrestle and flow stuff blew up. Like
Mm-hmm.
that could seriously work, if they, decide to do it. But it was just a creative idea that just came from my brain. Now, I don't know if they'll ever go with it or ever do it, but in the future, if but there were a lot of people who were talking about, Cardi B coming to WWE and, shaking some stuff up. And I just think that would just be amazing. That would bring an audience like around the age of 19 and 20, like my sister who loves
Mm-hmm.
rap music. That
Mm-hmm.
would bring a lot of fans to wrestling, that probably never watched it before. So that would just be really cool. And it's not a bad idea. So
Definitely. No, yeah, no, I hear you.
shady.
I tell you, I tell you, that's more entertaining, I think, than Legends Night would be. So instead of bringing back all these old guys, let's get some, some different faces on the TV that we haven't seen. I think that it would just be amazing, and
Hmm.
hopefully, like we said, if they do go in, and we know who to give credit to, I'll give you the credit for it.
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, okay, so if fans want to follow you, they want to listen to your show, how are they going to do that?
Okay, so if you want to listen to the Hardy Wrestling Podcast, you can listen to it on the Anchor app for free. You can also listen to it on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and you can also listen to it on YouTube because I have a YouTube channel called Hardy Wrestling Podcast. And you can follow me on Instagram at Hardy Wrestling Podcast and follow me on Twitter at Hardy Wrestle Pod.
Awesome. Look at that. Look, definitely make sure you check out Stephanie, her great show, the Hardy Wrestling Podcast. I definitely enjoy it. Very calming, very chill. I love it. It's great vibes all around that show. So definitely make sure you follow her. Make sure you check out all her stuff. Definitely make sure you follow Wrestling IQ 101 on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Apple Podcasts. You can listen to the show. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow and all that other good stuff. And for this episode of Wrestling IQ 101, it's Derek and it's Stephanie Hardy, and we are out.